Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, home of tonight's 2025 National Championship game between the Ohio State Buckeyes and Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I'm Tom Moore, down in the photo room of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Tony Gerdeman, way up in the high roller suites, the press box. We're doing a little bit of upstairs, downstairs. It's like prestige British television, only with college football and people without funny British accents. Sorry. Tony, how's it going?
No, going pretty good. I got my seat all situated up here, and we are now almost an hour away from the team arrival, which we will hope to bring live to you. And then we are almost 3 hours exactly from kickoff. I'm not sure. Is this a 7:40?
It is a 7:40. I just got done with the official photographer meeting, and at that point, they walk you through, like, okay, here's what's exactly happening at exactly this time on the clock. We are able to go, we're able to meet out at 7:30. That is 10 minutes before kickoff. That's 10 minutes on the countdown clock is at 7:30. So 7:40 should be the start of the game. 6.5 minutes left on the countdown clock. So this would be 7:30 and 7:33 and 30 seconds. That's when the national anthem will be over. We will be going out on the field, and then the teams will run out after that. So 7:40 is it's about as close to an official kickoff time as you're going to get.
Yeah. We are all looking forward to it, Tom. Make sure you shoot some good photos and then upload them to the computer for everybody to see.
I will see what I can do. I will tell you, the fun thing about the national championship game is they have the folks from Canon and Nikon are here, and they just let you borrow stuff. They have like, you want to try this? You want to try a new camera? That's fine, because they are here to sell you on, hey, this works great. You should use it. It's fantastic. So normally I have what is a 100 to 400 millimeter lens. That is a 600 millimeter lens. So I can shoot. If you want to know how many nose hairs any individual Ohio State player has, I can probably find that out for you from about 30 yards away. So I've got that to look forward to tonight. Before we get rolling too much, I do want to thank our friends from Grateful Griddle. They have been sponsoring our content all week long. And if you are planning your next event, you should make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle. Columbus's favorite food truck is serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at gratefulgriddleoh.com. Tony, while we're talking about food, what is on the menu up in the press box?
I have not looked, but there is a Sunday bar that everybody keeps walking by, but I don't see anybody utilizing. But so then I was wondering, maybe it's self-serve, but I don't recall that being the case 2 years ago, so I didn't want to push my way to the back. But there's some popcorn out there. There's some candy. I assume it's going to be a pretty good setup. It starts in like 13 minutes, so we'll need to wrap up. No. We're going to go. We're going to go through that.
I have bad news, friend. The ice cream may be a little melty by the time we're done. Just to get everyone sort of a little bit of a lay of the land of what to expect right now, because I know that these games, like, we get here, we've been here since 1 o'clock, so we've been running around doing all sorts of stuff. I shot a couple behind-the-scenes videos. I have a third one. The 2 of them are up right now. One of them is kind of walking you around the field, just get a look at everything from field level. One of them is walking you around the tunnels underneath the stadium. Everyone always loves those because it's like you get to see a place that you don't normally get to see. Also went into the really, really like high roller suite areas. Security was surprisingly lax because I very obviously don't belong there. Like I look like the guys, the valet guys in Ferris Bueller. It's like, what? Me? You don't trust me? Come on, please. Like I am extremely out of place in my bright blue photo vest in there. But yes, it was extremely, extremely fancy seats and suite areas and that kind of stuff. So you can get all that kind of stuff on our YouTube channel. Once we're done with the pregame show, you can watch some of that, and I'll have another one where I went to look like what's the worst seat in the stadium, and the worst seat in the stadium is really pretty good, which is good because people are paying a lot of money to sit in those seats today.
No, my seat is the very last seat in our section of the press box. I have a wall next to me. I am in the end zone, but I've got good company around me. Kevin Noon, legend Tip May, all of the usual suspects. But again, hey, we're in the building. That's the media likes to complain about stuff, but I'm not going to complain about being here for a national championship game.
No, for sure. And I mean, there are a lot of people who probably will not be able to be here for the national championship game. The last time I looked at seats, I pulled up some of the secondary market sites, and it had been at like $2,000, like as the get-in price, including fees, at the beginning of the week. And then it was like it sort of came down a little bit, and it would hit kind of about a floor at about $1,500. And as soon as stuff hit $1,500, it was gone. And then the cheapest stuff was back up $1,700, $1,800. It may have gotten below that momentarily a couple different times, but it kind of has been around 2,000 for the last couple days. And then today I looked and it was more like 3,000 for the floor earlier today. So yeah, if you do not have tickets now, you may have to dip into that 401k to get into the building. It'd be worth it. I don't know. This seems just being here, seeing the fans around the stadium. I mean, it felt like we saw more Notre Dame fans at our hotel, but then driving in and sort of looking at the Fan Fest area, it felt like it was a pretty even split between Ohio State fans and Notre Dame fans.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And just looking at ESPN right now, looking at their scoreboard page, tickets as low as $3,481 for this game. I don't know if you should say as low as, but that is the get-in price right now, $3,500. I assume it's going to come down some, but
it's okay. Hi, that's my friend Michael.
I took a picture of him and Dan Harker from the press box today, and I texted Dan like, "Guys, get to work, you two." But he won't check his phone until tomorrow. But yeah, $3,500 to get in. Mm-hmm. What is even the low end once the game starts and people are like just trying to get rid of their tickets? Is it's still like 1,200? I have no idea.
Yeah, right. At this point, and I don't think it's going to drop that much unless you're willing to wait till halftime and you're like the last guy with tickets and you're just trying to get rid of them at that point. $1,500, $1,200, something like that. I don't know. The fact that it keeps going up, at some point there will be people with tickets left in hand as the game starts, and then that will start to drop. But it is really a little bit of a game of chicken at this point. I'm going to pull up the updated seating. There are, let's see, fix my price display option. Yeah, I mean there are 69 pairs of tickets left in the stadium, and the cheapest, including fees, right now, $5,833 if you want a pair of tickets, and that's per ticket. That is not. If you want a single ticket, it's only $5,672, and that is for like the corner of the upper deck. So I hope you have tickets, because if there are only 69 pairs of tickets and there are 55 single tickets, there are probably more than that number of people standing outside the stadium, crossing their fingers and holding fingers in the air, with one or two or however many they need. But yeah, this is going to be an incredibly high demand game, and it's going to be an incredibly highly watched game, because these are probably the two single biggest fan bases in the country going head to head, and one hasn't won a national championship since 2014. The other one hasn't won one since 1988. So this is going to be an enormous game.
I'm just looking at Vivid Seats right now. The lowest thing is like $4,000, and those are end zone seats. If you want the good seats, you're talking $12,000 around the 40-yard line in the lower ball.
Mm-hmm.
If you got it, go ahead and spend it.
If you have the means, I highly recommend it, since we're just quoting the entire movie Ferris Bueller right now. I put up a seat. I put up a photo from the 50-yard line at the top of the lower bowl and said, tickets here cost about $10,000 for tonight's game. The cost to look at this photo is $5. And that's probably about right in terms of, the dollar per minute of entertainment for this game. But, this is a game that it feels like this should be a pretty exciting game, a pretty entertaining game, because you've got a lot of big name players. You've got a lot of incredible storylines in this game too. I mean, let's just start on the Ohio State side with this team. 55 weeks ago, was walking off the field at the Cotton Bowl after one of the more disheartening losses in program history. Michigan is on their way to winning the national championship. You had a ton of players looking at potentially making an NFL draft decision. And it was like, boy, this could really spiral for Ohio State. And then you sort of had that like drip of guys coming back. And some of them, Cody Simon announced he was coming back. And it was like, the draft projections for Cody Simon were not such that you thought, well, boy, this is going to be a difficult decision. But he came back. And then Jack Sawyer came back. And then you kind of kept hearing guys. And it was like, oh, well, he's coming back. Okay, he's coming back. Oh, they're bringing in Caleb Downs. Oh, and he's coming back now. And then this guy's coming back. And oh, Quinshon Judkins is here. Oh, interesting. Okay, now Travion Henderson, I think, was one of the last ones to say he was coming back. And all of a sudden it went from, boy, who's the running back going to be for 2024 to you've got Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. And who's the defensive end going to be? And you've got JT Tuimoloau and you've got Jack Sawyer. And it was just kind of all the way around the field. And all of those guys have ended up being an enormous part of the season. But the story of this year really starts back then as they're walking off the field at the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, walking off the field in the Cotton Bowl, having defensively played well, but lost 2 in a row. And I wonder if we go back and listen to that post-game show that we did, was it like, well, everybody's off into the sunset now because this is something you want to walk away from. You want to get away from as quickly as you can and as far away from it as you can. And then in the days following, Jack Sawyer starts getting his teammates together, and they all start corresponding in their group text about what they're doing and what they're thinking. And these are major decisions, and they're open with each other about that, which tells you how close they are. Where these are all, every player's like, you got to do what's best for you. When Michael Hall announced he was leaving, like, there's no ill will. Everybody has to make their own decision. The players enter the portal. It's all like, well, they've got to make their own decision. There's still nothing but the best. But when they start to all come back and announce that they're coming back, then you start to realize that there's something special here. And then Josh Fryer talked about, like, well, I didn't really have a decision to make. I was coming back. Like, it is 1 year starting. And so, but the other players could have gone. They could have finishing up their first rookie NFL season. But they all, except for one guy, came back, and we've seen the results of that all season long.
Well, and even the guys who, like Josh Fryer, you talked about, not really having a decision. It's not like he was going to be a first-round pick last year. But even him, or Cody Simon, who I talked about earlier, like Cody Simon had not really been a starter last season. So he was a returner and had been a starter previously, but was not a starter last year. And what has Cody Simon done this year? Well, Cody Simon was a team captain. Cody Simon is the Blanco jersey recipient. Cody Simon has been the leading tackler in what feels like about 13 of the 15 previous Ohio State games this year. He has been an incredible portion of this team. Absolutely been the best linebacker on the team, and been a huge part in why they've been so successful in defending the run, why they are number 2, I think, in the nation in yards per attempt allowed. And Josh Fryer has been the rock on this offensive line, while everything else, every other spot on that offensive line, they've played multiple guys this year. Right tackle, it's been Josh Fryer. He had, individual plays you can look at and go, well, this guy beat him on this individual play. But he has been a really solid veteran presence in that room, where it's not just the on-field piece, it's also leadership, as in terms of veteran leadership in that room, where they lose Josh Simmons, who was the guy before this year that we said, who is the one guy they absolutely can't afford to lose. And I think we did one of those, like, okay, let's say it at the same time. And we both said Josh Simmons at the exact same time. And then they lose him again in the Oregon game. And then they lose Seth McLaughlin, who is transferred in and been this incredible stabilizing force in the middle of the offensive line. Wins the Remington Award, despite going down with an injury the week between the Northwestern game and the Indiana game. That's how good he was. He played 10 regular season games and still won the Remington Award. So to lose those two guys, and then the interior of the offensive line is just, well, you had to move Donovan Jackson outside, and that he's a whole separate story that we should talk about in a minute. But the interior of the offensive line becomes, well, you've got first Carson Hintzman solved the problem at left guard, and now there was a new problem at center, and now you got to move him to center. And then who's going to play the guard positions? Well, we have 3 guys. Who's it going to be? And the answer is all of the above. So to have two veteran guys like Donovan Jackson and Josh Fryer at those tackle positions, just to sort of steady the ship with really young, inexperienced guys getting thrown into very, very crucial spots, a very crucial spot on the calendar, on the schedule. Boy, I think the off-field piece and the not just between the whistles kind of piece of those tackles, veteran presence of those tackles, has been such a big piece of this team's story this year.
Well, I want to go back to Josh Fryer. I wrote about him a few days ago, essentially calling him like the perfect Buckeye, like the ideal Buckeye, as somebody who, one, has just remained patient throughout all of this. And in the age of the transfer portal, could have left looking for playing time. But he stayed patient. He stayed at Ohio State and got better and progressed, has played many different positions, was the left tackle in the spring of 2023, way back when, before they went out and got Josh Simmons. And not only has he been patient, he's been a remarkable model for other guys. I talked to Ian Moore, freshman offensive lineman, about Josh Fryer. Like, this is a guy that you see the example of. You put in the hard work. Year 4, you finally get to play. Like, that's a lot to ask of kids today. Where like, I'm not going to play until year 4. No chance. Offensive line is different, as we know, but he's done everything. He speaks. He's a really good spokesperson for this team. He will tell it how it is. He will. He knows what gets said outside of the walls, and so he might take some of that personally, especially when they're as close as they are. They perform as well as they are. Tom, this is an offensive line that has started 9 guys now. When Josh Simmons went down, it was like, season's over. When Seth McLaughlin went down, boom, season's over. Season's over after tonight. They're playing in the national championship.
Yep. We have a super chat I want to get to real quick. Mike Farino says, is there a scenario where Ohio State does not turn the ball over, is fine on special teams, but loses? If so, please walk me through it because I can't see it. And, don't turn the ball over is such a cliche. It's such a, that's like the free space on the bingo card in terms of like if you're putting together the network TV, like keys to victory graphic. But if Ohio State doesn't give Notre Dame short fields and Ohio State doesn't kill their own drives with turnovers and Notre Dame doesn't get a touchdown on special teams or, hit a big play on special teams, I go back to like the Sugar Bowl game against Georgia. Notre Dame, it was 3-3 right before halftime. Notre Dame drives down the field, kicks a field goal at 6-3. Georgia gets the ball back. Notre Dame forces a turnover. They have a one-play, 13-yard touchdown drive. That all of a sudden gets the score from 6-3 to 13-3. And then they run back the opening kickoff to open the second half, and all of a sudden it's 20-3, and the game's over. Because you can't do that against Notre Dame. You cannot give Notre Dame short fields or have, let me rephrase that. Notre Dame was not a passive viewer of either of those things happening. You cannot allow Notre Dame to take the ball from you or to make big plays on defense or special teams. If they can't do that, it certainly narrows the path to victory for Notre Dame substantially. Hopefully, Tony, I have vamped long enough for you to come up with a scenario where that happens.
Well, here's the thing. Ohio State can be fine on special teams, but still get pinned inside their own 10, because Notre Dame is also good in special teams. So I think that's one scenario where you don't have to turn it over, but if you're constantly coming out of your own 10-yard line in the back of your own end zone, that changes what Ohio State's going to call, or at least that's changing against Michigan. It changed the plays that they can run coming out are different than the plays that they run at the 30-yard line in between the 30s. So I think that's one thing that if we're eliminating turnovers and poor special teams, like just Notre Dame doing their good things on special teams can create some long fields for Ohio State, which then, if Ohio State doesn't get a first down at their 10-yard line, they're punting and putting Notre Dame back at the 50. And so now Notre Dame's got their short field again anyway. So I think that's one way where you can't get out of the shadow of your own end zone. Anything outside of that, like if Ohio State's getting regular field position and Notre Dame's getting regular field position and there are no turnovers in between, That to me is like a 14, 17 point type of game because Ohio State has more firepower. Other than that, like you're talking about missed tackles, we know how patient Notre Dame is with the running game. They're fine with 4 yards on first down, 3 yards on second down, Riley Leonard for 3 yards on third down. And it's a methodical thing. We've seen Notre Dame make plays, big plays in the playoffs. Ohio State's defense has locked things down pretty well in terms of big plays. I'm struggling to remember any like important big plays that they've given up that are like out of character. And really, you need something like out of character for Ohio State, whether it's a series of missed tackles. I would say penalties, but that's not necessarily out of character because we saw it against Texas. We've seen it from Davis Igbinosun, of course, in the season. But I'm trying to walk you through a scenario here. And I just keep going back to pinning Ohio State inside the 10 and then hoping for the best, letting your defense win.
Yeah, and obviously we have seen that happen, and that, but even that was a game where Will Howard threw an interception and Michigan got a 3-yard touchdown drive, and then had a short punt, and then Michigan got a 2-yard drive for the kick the field goal. So that would sort of be a little bit against the spirit of this exercise, but this is obviously a better Notre Dame offense than Michigan had. That Michigan's offense was not quite as capable. Notre Dame's offense is not a particularly dynamic passing attack, but it is certainly a more dynamic passing attack than Notre Dame or than Michigan has. So that's it feels like you're not having this conversation in terms of absolutes, but we're having this conversation in terms of paths to victory. And Notre Dame has a path to victory if they can kind of keep Ohio State under control on offense, hang on to the ball when Notre Dame has the ball, stay on schedule, get it to 3rd and 2 instead of 3rd and 7. You have Riley Leonard be able to pick up first downs with his legs on 3rd and 2, that kind of stuff. That's what you're looking for. They could win the middle 8, sure, but that's something that if Ohio State wins the toss and defers, that kind of takes that off the field by and large for Notre Dame. So, you could have one of Notre Dame's potential paths to victory kind of not going away, because you could still lose the middle 8 even if you win the toss, but you sort of, it makes it a lot less likely if that happens. I have another super chat from our buddy Omar Austin. Good morning. Good Buckeye Monday, gents. I'm super nervous for some reason. Tell me I'm crazy. Walk me off this ledge. And he says championship concert. He wants championship confetti. That's what he cleared it up later. I wish there were more spam accounts on here. Half of the show has been me moderating the chat with a bunch of spammers. So championship confetti. Omar is already on the list. Omar, longtime friend of the program. We have done that, in case you have not been following this. We have done that from the Rose Bowl. We did that from the Cotton Bowl as well. Just grabbed some of the confetti off the field, mailed some of it out to our subscribers at BuckeyeHuddle.com. So if you want to get some of the championship confetti and Ohio State wins this game, well, you should hop on BuckeyeHuddle.com. Sign up right now and get access to our whole team of insiders for $4.99 for your first month. And, yes, you get confetti if you want it, but also, there's actually like other reasons, like, the insider content and great community on the message board, all that kind of stuff. Go ahead and do it now. And you can, there will be instructions on the board after the game if Ohio State wins as to how to do it. But, get access to all of the insider content and all that other good stuff as well. So, that's that. We are a little over 20 minutes in. So I do want to, that's not going to focus. You're too close. I have a photographer pointing an extremely long lens at me from 4 feet away. So we are a little over 20 minutes in. So let's just reset, because we have picked up a bunch of viewers since we started the show. We are live at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Tony up in the press box. I'm down in the photo workroom down at field level. We are expecting the Buckeyes to get here about 5:40 or so. They're going to be leaving their team hotel at 5:20. They will have a police escort over here, but even with a police escort, Atlanta traffic means it's going to take a little while. So 5:40 to 5:45 or so, we have Kevin Noon in position to get you live video of that as the team comes in. So that'll be coming up in just a little bit. In the meantime, we will be answering some of your questions and kind of doing more of a preview of the game because boy, there's so many different things to talk about. And I'm marking all sorts of questions that are great questions on here. But let's get back to the offense and the offensive line, because we've talked about all these different guys. We talked about the guards. We talked about the center. We talked about Josh Fryer a minute ago. We need to talk a little bit more about Donovan Jackson. I kind of mentioned him in passing earlier, but when you're looking at MVP of the season, I mean, this is an Ohio State team where you could pick any of about 10 to 12 guys and make a pretty good, compelling MVP case. Donovan Jackson is certainly on that list for me because he came in fourth year, going into his contract year, final year as a college player. Got to be part of the NFL draft. Josh Simmons goes down for the year with a knee injury at Oregon. So then, okay, you put Zen Mahalski in at left tackle, and he plays the Nebraska game. It doesn't go great, and then he gets injured. And then you're kind of, well, now what? You're out of good options, you're out of okay options, and you're looking at a bunch of things that are like, well, maybe they could do this. And then Donovan Jackson steps up. First game is on the road at Penn State. One of the best, one of the Final Four teams in the college football playoff, playing them on the road, going up against Abdul Carter when Abdul Carter had two arms. And he did fine. There were a couple plays where Abdul Carter got him, but Abdul Carter got lots of people this year. And then since that game, you really haven't noticed Donovan Jackson very much. And that's one of the things that I think it's so hard to give these guys credit, because it's like a long snapper. When a long snapper is doing your job, you never think about who the long snapper is. What percentage of Ohio State fans can name the long snapper this year? Probably a very small amount. What percentage could name the long snapper the year that they screwed up the snap against Michigan on the fake punt? A whole bunch of them could. So it is definitely, it is definitely, I think, one of the somewhat underreported stories in terms of Donovan Jackson on this team and his role on this year's team. Some Notre Dame people yelling very loudly in the hallway. But, Donovan Jackson feels like he is – I've kind of made a point to talk about him more because I feel like he's not getting the credit he deserves. But even so, he still probably deserves more credit.
Yeah, we can go back to Kevin Wilson back in 2022, offensive coordinator at Ohio State, saying that Donovan Jackson could be a left tackle, and mentioned him. And that was one of the reasons we talked about Donovan Jackson being the left tackle in 2023 as being maybe the best option. And if they had not gotten Josh Simmons out of the portal, I'm betting at that point they would have moved Donovan Jackson. But seeing what he's been able to do, arguably one of the best guards in the nation, now he's playing like the best left tackle in the playoffs, from the start of the playoffs, and has been consistent. And people keep talking about his draft stock. Like when I see him, I don't see a guard. I see a tackle out there. Now, his problem is that he's only 6'4", so he's not allowed to be a tackle. It's like NFL bylaws state that if you're only 6'4", you have to be a guard. But he's been as good a tackle as he's been a guard. And you've heard more criticism about him as a guard than you have as a tackle. So I think he's done a fantastic job for himself. Again, another example like Josh Fryer for the younger guys. You can move positions, you can be selfless, and it will still help you out down the road in the NFL, because no NFL team is looking at him right now is like, gosh, I wish he would have stayed at guard so I could have seen more film on this guy.
So what's happening right now, I think the noise is that Notre Dame is getting here, and I think they're getting here right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you, Tony, vamp for a few minutes. I'm going to try and get on. I'm going to try and do this from my phone. Well, listen, we're having a great time here. Oop, that's not what I wanted to do.
Just talk
we're
us
doing
through
a little bit. Yeah, we're going to. I'm going to get on my phone right here. I'm going to punch this into the show.
Hey, can you make me can you give me the ability to punch in super chats and stuff, because I do not have that.
I don't know.
I see you, Tree-Buck. I see you.
Okay. So hang on. Let me punch that in real quick. No, is Tree-Buck? I don't see a super chat. Here's what I'm going to do. 501. Yeah, let's see. I see it. Okay, sorry. All right, there you go. I'm going to punch that back in. I'm going to pull this up right now, and let's see.
I can't punch you in.
Yeah, I can do that. Sorry. Okay. There we go. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to turn down the volume.
Thank you.
And okay. There we go.
This is amazing. Look at all
Now
of
I'm
those
punching myself up.
Everybody would love to punch you out, Tom. In terms of, as we watch Tom, you see the nice media spread there for the photographers. Way too much food for the should not have left me out. There you go. Keep it going. That looked just like a Notre Dame fans more than Notre Dame football players. But sometimes it's hard to tell. Here come the other exits. Tom working his way through there. Nope, nothing there. We'll try another area. And then Tree Buck, we will get to this super chat here. I just like watching Tom walk around and see what he's doing. And now as he's heading back to his desk, he forgot his camera. Unbelievable. And now it's just
okay. So what happened, Tony, was I missed it by about 20 seconds. So here's the deal. Notre Dame fans, like there's a bunch of Notre Dame fans out there, and they were like clapping a little bit. It was wildly unimpressive. Like maybe I don't know, maybe they're not impressed with their team or something like that. I'm not sure, but
they only want championships. They don't want championship contenders.
Yeah. So sorry, missed it by that much. Well, the good news is we have Kevin here to do this for the Ohio State team arrival. That will be in about 20 minutes or so. So there we go. So if you are just joining us, or even if you're not, go ahead and hit the thumbs up for us. That will help other folks find these shows. We're planning on being on here for a little while now. So the Ohio State team arrival in about 20 minutes. Kevin is in position for that. Let's get this super chat from Tree Buck. If I could ask for one thing tonight, it would be no empty backfield / shotgun sets on 3rd or 4th and short. Hate that so much.
Well, what's wrong with the quick screen out to Emeka Egbuka, or a little jet sweep to Emeka Egbuka, or any of those things? Yeah, I'm with you. You've established your physicality. The running game is there. The offensive line is there. Will Howard, has he been stopped in short yardage yet? Like, we talk about Riley Leonard and how effective he is in short yardage. Will Howard with the sneak, like when they do it on like 3rd and 2, they pick up 4 yards. So they've been very effective at that. And then once they did it against Texas, you could just see, or whatever it was, they removed the guy, and it's like, well, this is either a straight Will Howard run or it's going to be a quick screen when you don't need to get crazy like that. Just go ahead, stay simple, stay effective, go pick up the first down. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, it is. It does feel like a keep it simple kind of situation. Let's run through a couple of.
It's getting very loud in the stadium right now. The desk that I'm at right now is shaking from the vibration.
I was just thinking I could walk out right now. The field is not that far. It's that way. It's probably about a 90, maybe not even 90 second, 60-second walk from here. And I was thinking I could bring the phone out there and then give people a look around from the field. But are they playing music really loudly out there? Because that might.
Yes.
Okay, well then that might not work particularly well. So let's hit this one from Geiger Lee. Thanks to Tony so much. So many lack of holding calls, news stories everywhere. I'll raise my beer to you, my friend, if one is finally called tonight on Notre Dame.
I think it's going to happen. This, to me, I'm chalking this up to when Ohio State fans kept ripping on Jabril Peppers all season long for not having an interception. Jabril Peppers, Defensive Player of the Year in the Big Ten, got so much hype, and everybody's like, yeah, he's such a great safety. He has no interceptions. Where's the interceptions? He has no interceptions. I said, you keep poking that bear, he's going to have an interception against Ohio State. And boom, he did. Sure, it was on a tipped pass, but he still got that interception. This one, we put it out to the world and let the college football gods take over and see what happens. one thing we do know, they're due. Whether that's Jack Sawyer or JT Tuimoloau, it's been a while, and so I'm not going to be surprised if it happens. Frankly, it should happen every week, so you should never be surprised when it happens. But since it has not happened, maybe feel free to be surprised if it happens. But I do think it will. Plus, these refs, I believe, are a little flag happy, so they might be they might get paid by the flag in this one. I don't know.
Yeah, well, this is a very flag happy. I think I saw that they threw something like 18 penalties the last game they called, something like that, which would be so far out of line with what Ohio State has had for a lot of the Big Ten games this year. Big Ten officials threw some of the fewest flags, most of their crews threw the fewest flags in the nation. We saw this when we were watching Tennessee games and Texas games, and you go through an Ohio State game and it's like 3 penalties for one team and 2 penalties for the other team, and it's 30 yards and it's 15 yards and that's it. And then we're watching Tennessee play Georgia, and I think they were like 200 something yards of penalties and like 18 penalty flags, and it was like, what sport is this? So you haven't seen anything wildly, one team getting 15 penalties and one team getting 2 or something like that. But I mean, Sue says, I'm very worried about the SEC refs. They always screw us. I mean, that's one of those things where I think you're probably every conference thinks that they have the worst refs. That's just kind of like one of the great constants on college football internet. And every fan base thinks that the officials screw their team in particular. There are certainly some outliers there, but I think the Ohio State not getting any penalty calls on the defensive line this year kind of ties in with the Big Ten officials not throwing a lot of flags overall.
I wonder, these are 2 pretty disciplined teams, and so I wonder if at some point the refs not being able to throw as many flags as they'd like start looking harder for some penalties so that they can actually get involved in the game and be a part of it. It is the championship game after all. You want your family to see you doing a good job. You want them to see you like, oh, that's my dad, that's my grandpa out there throwing a flag. They want to be part of this as well. But you've got 2 disciplined teams. I don't know that there's going to be a huge need for all of the flags that these guys apparently like to throw.
And now Sue's worried about how many pass interferences on Davis Igbinosun. Now, he has really not gotten – he got what, 1 penalty, like a defensive holding call, I think, on him in the Cotton Bowl. But
think the end zone, is that one of those?
Yeah,
the goal line
so. That wasn't him. That was
Jermaine Matthews
and Lathan Ransom. I think there was maybe a holding call on Davis Igbinosun at some point. I think it might have been on the drive that got Texas to 14-14. I believe there was one on that drive where Texas went boom, 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 boom right down the field. But he has been substantially better. I think if you look at, everyone is sort of haunted by the game or 2 where he was getting called for like a pass interference call and a half on average for about a month, it felt like. It really has gotten substantially better throughout the course of the season. Doesn't mean he couldn't get called for one tonight, but I don't think, given his improvement in that area and given the fact that Notre Dame does not have like these incredible difference makers at wide receiver. They've got some solid receivers, but they don't have Jerry Rice on this team by any means. They don't even have Jeremiah Smith on this team by any means. They might not have Carnell Tate on this team by any means. You're not exactly set up for a lot of those, and Notre Dame doesn't throw the ball down the field that much. So, if Notre Dame starts getting out of character and doing some things they don't normally do, that's probably something that is a pretty good sign for Ohio State, that if Notre Dame is really going to throw the ball down the field on the types of plays that you have seen Igbinosun get flagged on, that's Notre Dame kind of doing stuff they don't normally want to do, and that's probably a good sign for Ohio State on the whole, even if it does mean some pass interference calls. Mike Farino says it was on the Texas drive to end the half. That's right. It had no impact. If anything, it helped the Buckeyes as it ate up clock. I knew it was on one of the touchdown drives. I couldn't remember which one, but yeah, it was on the first one, not the second one. So there you go.
Thank you for that.
Right,
I will say,
appreciate that.
While Sue is concerned about IGB, I think Notre Dame fans should be just as concerned about Christian Gray, who we've seen in the 3 playoff games. Very physical, very handsy, very grabby. So that's their version of that kind of guy. So we'll see if the refs are watching him as well.
And super chat from Mateo and Fuego, and he had said earlier, third quarter OSU making a difference on either side of the ball feels right to me. I mean, that's certainly a a storyline, one of the many, many storylines that we've seen. That's not one they've necessarily leaned on that much in the college football playoff. He says, my super chat didn't go as planned. Throw it, if you have another comment, throw it in there and we'll punch it up for you. But, the third quarter Buckeyes, you've seen that some, and they've done it, but it has felt that has never felt like really the narrative around this playoff run. The Tennessee game was first quarter Buckeyes. The Oregon game was first 25 minutes Buckeyes. The Texas game was last 30 seconds of the first half, and then last 2 minutes or so of the games. They've done well in the third quarter, but that hasn't really felt like that's been the defining feature of the playoffs so far for them.
No, now the ability to adapt and adjust. I was reading, I don't know if it was Football Scoop or I think it was Football Scoop today, talking an article about they talked to a bunch of coaches who have played against Ohio State and Notre Dame this year, and one of the coaches was talking about how Ohio State, they're good, but then by the third quarter they're just overwhelming you, and you're like, how did this happen? How could they be so good? And you've got just the physical toll that they will put on a team. Then you've got the ability to adjust, and not just the coaches can figure out how to adjust. You've got the players that can enact it. They can take it from the locker room to the field. They can take it from the sideline to the field. So that third quarter is a real thing. They just haven't needed it, and they didn't get it against Texas necessarily, but the potential is always there. And the thing is, they've had the ability. They had the middle eight against Texas, so they had that opportunity. But the third quarter, it's been good to them all year long. No reason to think it wouldn't also at least be neutral for them. It's just, as we see here, the buses have left the hotel, and so they're on their way. About another 20 minutes. They'll be here, and Kevin will be down there, either freezing or warm. I'm not sure which entrance he's going to be at, whether it's at the bus or towards the locker room.
He's going to be inside. Talked to him right before we went on. And the plan is for him to be inside, because going outside is a little bit of an uncontrolled environment. You don't know what the Wi-Fi is going to be like out there. He was part of the group that got stuck out there the last time we were down covering a Peach Bowl before the game. So it's going to be something where it's going to be probably easier, probably better Wi-Fi connection inside. So we'll see. We'll see what that looks like when they get here. That is just down the hall. That way, about 100 feet or so. When
that happens, can you take the phone and shoot Kevin while he's doing this? That way we can.
I would have to go run down the hallway, but theoretically I could. Yes. So here's let's see. Got to that one. Mike wants to clarify it was after the screen, so it was no touchdown on the drive. So it was the drive that was right before halftime. So it did eat up clock time. That's right. So
I like how we pretend to be wrong about stuff so that Mike continues to super chat us.
I've got to start a separate YouTube channel where just my wife super chats me every time I forget to take the garbage out or something. They can make a lot of money on that. Speaking of things that we can make a lot of money on, McChicken says if the Buckeyes win, Tony says he'll eat the 15 McRibs. Do you have a source on that? Is that true? I heard it was Kevin.
I've had a McRib once. I had one last year just to see what all the fuss was about. I don't need another, let alone 15. I'll tell you what. No, I'm not. No.
Upon further reflection, no. But upon further reflection, also no.
Still no.
No, but in Spanish. Speaking about in Spanish, Mateo and Fuego, I'm going to say, guess this is the super chat that he was trying to get in earlier. Really want these seniors to finish off this final chapter of their careers, most deserving to feel redemption.
And I wrote today about 10 things Ohio State fans will be saying after this game. And one of those things is that they're going to miss these seniors. They're going to miss these guys because you've got, not even counting Seth McLaughlin or Josh Simmons, who's a fourth-year guy but a redshirt junior. I think 15 senior starters or so, 13 senior starters on this team. And all of them have been special in their own way and all have had their own ups and downs. Like, talk about Denzel Burke having an entire, like, a sophomore season that was a sophomore slump after starting as a freshman. He's had ups and downs. He's had great games. He's had rough games. He's been, solid throughout. Lathan Ransom breaking his leg. And I'm going through all of these names as I'm writing them, and I'd forgotten about Jordan Hancock. And that's kind of the story of Jordan Hancock, where this defense doesn't work as well as it does without him. But you often forget about him because he's the nickel. And yet, so much more than that. He is one of these three safeties, and I've said it before, this is the best trio of safeties in Ohio State history. Now, how often do you look at a trio of safeties? Not often. That's kind of a new development over like the last decade or two of football. But they're all outstanding, and two of them are leaving. The offensive line, 4 guys are leaving. Emeka Ebuka, Travion Henderson, to where last week he had the 75-yard touchdown run to really give them a boost. His first career game was a 70-yard touchdown reception.
We got the Buckeyes coming in right now. It looks like Kevin just waved in front of the camera, so they are walking people in. There's Ryan Day in the red coat walking in. RJ, his son, behind him. The locker room right down that hallway there. And the rest of the team's going to be coming in momentarily.
There's Ryan Day's always on the first bus.
Yes, we'll see if I can. There's Jim Knowles, defensive coordinator. Mike Guerreri, Sam Waltons, all the coaches there coming in. There's James Laurinaitis, Brian Hartline, Keenan Bailey, Cody Simon, Volt, Brian Voltini, support staffer. There's Mark Cantoni, I think. That looks like Carson Hinsman. There's Chip Kelly. Lathan Ransom there. There's Caleb Downs. There's Caden Curry. Jack Sawyer right there. You can see him following Jack Sawyer. Someone who knows what he's doing there. There's Denzel Burke. Jermaine Matthews. I think that was Donovan Jackson there. It's Toby Wilson. Maurice Claret there. There's Will Howard getting followed by the network camera, so you really couldn't quite see him there. It's all the specialists going through. There's Brandon Innes. That's Jeremiah Smith.
He made it.
He made it. Good news. He's here. G. Scott. The Armstrongs. There's the other Armstrong. They both made it. That's good news. Jason Moore, backup defensive tackle. That's Bryson Rogers. It's Caden McDonald, Atlanta native. He talked to him. He was very excited about this game, getting the chance to play here. He had some big games in high school in this stadium as well. And then if you see photographers coming in, that is the end of the Buckeyes team arrival there. They've all come in, so that'll be the end of that. So we'll punch him back out of the show.
I don't know if it was in this stadium, but he did have a playoff game where he had 7 sacks in one game. Caden McDonald. I talked to him a little bit on at media day, and asked him about that. Asked him about his playoff games, his experience in this stadium. He didn't mention that, but he did say that they used him as a running back. They used him basically as the fridge, more or less, goal line running back for his high school team. Which I said, did you put on a bunch of weights since then? He's like, no, just like 300-pound fullback at the goal line. Like, can you imagine just a high school team trying to tackle a 320-pound fullback?
No, thank you. Respectfully declined. He did score a touchdown there, just like the fridge. So yeah, and you got to remember, Ohio State has used him in the goal line situation. They used him, I think last year they used him in that kind of goal line situation, but they use him on defense in goal line situations as well. So he's someone you may get a chance to see a little bit during this game. Boy, I'm right now. The moderation on the chat has been mostly telling the streaming people to go take a hike.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun. We're having a good time. Here's one. Here's one for Tony, the Bears fan. Tuki G says, despite the fact that Freeman won't be leaving for Chicago now, they did hire Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, as the Bears head coach. I reiterate my score prediction of Buckeyes 347 to Irish 0. That's only because Mike Ditka's not coaching the Irish.
With that score, does Ohio State have to take the ball? If they win the toss, you've got to take it. Like, you've got to get that scoring started right away. If you're going to score 347 points, you can't defer. There's no kicking off on that one. You make it and you take it. Onside kicks as well.
Yeah, you got to be going for 2. Why did you go for 2? Well, because we had to get to 347, obviously. Duh. Excuse me, sir. We just scored 347 points. Are you questioning me? Come on. Mike Brino says, on the topic of seniors, Emeka Buka was the first recruitment I've ever followed. That was a big one. What's crazy is, you go back and he was such an incredibly highly followed recruitment. And JT Tuimoloau was such an incredibly highly followed recruitment. And Abuka is like on the verge of breaking the receptions and yardage career records at Ohio State. But he's never been like clearly the best receiver on any team he's been at Ohio State, even though he's about to potentially set these records and have this enormous impact on what could be a national championship team.
Yeah, he's another of those guys. This is his last game, and he came back for this, and he's always been selfless. He's always been very good. He's the first Ohio State receiver in school history to have 2 seasons of 70 receptions or more, trying to become the second to ever have 2 1,000-yard receiving seasons. 3 receptions away from the school record, 94 yards, 95 yards away from the receiving yards record. And so it's, again, another kind of guy that can go and can play anywhere, can be recruited by any school and fit in. Really quality kid. And one that is just, as I said, been selfish. I do think this is an interesting question in terms of, you throw that out to anybody. Like, who was the first recruitment that you remember following? And I don't know that I have a great answer because it's so long ago, but like Kenyon Rambo, maybe for me, way back when out of California. I think that's always an interesting thing to because sometimes it's a Sammy Maldonado or somebody that doesn't quite pan out. Like, your entire life depends on this player happening, and sometimes it just doesn't materialize.
All right, Kevin is out now on the field. Buckeyes starting to make their way out in the tunnel. This is just, this is the tunnel that Ohio State will be coming out. So just to sort of give you the lay of the land on where they are in the stadium, this is going to be, if you're watching on TV, this is going to be the bottom left-hand corner of your TV screen. That is the Ohio State end zone. They're going to come out there, and their bench is on what's going to be on the bottom of your TV screen. So that's where we are in the stadium right now. We're frozen, but that's okay. It'll hopefully pick back up again. Yep. So here we go. So and the internet connection here, we are at the mercy of stadium Wi-Fi. So you get what you get right now, which we're in a little bit more of a secure, stable spot, which is helpful. Just dropped out there. We'll see if he can get back in. You saw them look at that roof there. This place is really, really an impressive building. It is. We go to a lot of these. We've been to Arizona for the Fiesta Bowl. We've been to Miami for the Orange Bowl. We've been to the Superdome at the Sugar Bowl. We've been to Jerry World a bunch of times for the Cotton Bowl. This place is, like, of all the places, by far the most impressive in terms of just the building. So there you go. That is CJ Hicks. That is – oh, no, sorry. I apologize. Those are the true freshmen coming out. I was looking at jersey numbers. But, yeah, those are true freshmen coming out there right now. Walking out to Carter Lowe is 72. Yep, Carter Lowe is 72. Yes, future true freshmen. Yes, sorry. So early enrollees. So we'll see if we can get Kevin shot back. But those guys are have been along for the ride here. They're sort of limited in what they can do right now, but I think this has been great for them in terms of seeing what goes into this preparation. Like, there was always you're not a freshman after you get through, once by the end of the season, you're not a true freshman anymore. You've sort of seen it and experienced all that kind of stuff. Those guys are getting a little bit of a head start on that, I think. Super chat from Mike Farino. Any idea if Howard Cross is limping? That's their defensive tackle, number 56. If I recall correctly, I read he was having ankle issues after or during the Penn State game. I don't think he's 100%. He certainly is going to play. I don't think that's a question. I have not heard anything about a severe injury. That was James Laurinaitis just walking out there. He's going to play. I don't think he's 100%. I think both of those things are true. I am not out there obviously to watch. That's something I can look for when I go out there in a little bit, but right now obviously not out there. But the injuries for Notre Dame are unquestionably a big part of the story. And you look at their offensive line, for example. You're missing Anthony Knapp, left tackle. We know he's out. Charles Jagasaw, who is going in to play for him. We saw that at practice this week. He started last year in the Sun Bowl against Washington State after they lost Joe Alt to he left early, opted out of the Sun Bowl because he was going to be a first round pick. So Jagasaw's played a little bit of left tackle, but he's played like 20 snaps this season. That's going to be a big part of the game. Kenneth says, I think Cross was out for this game. If that has happened, that is new information. I think you're probably conflating him with Riley Mills. Riley Mills is the defensive tackle who is out for the game for Notre Dame. He injured his knee about halftime against Indiana in that first-round college football playoff game. Riley Mills is out. We know Anthony Knapp is out. Rocco Spindler, the right guard, he's expected to play. Jagasaw is expected to play at left tackle. I have, Cross, I think, is banged up, but is, I believe, supposed to be good to go.
He might be as banged up as JT Tuimoloau, which is just a normal type of thing. Like Tuimoloau called his ankle injury a basketball ankle, and he's fine. And Howard Cross is going to go. And once the game starts, I don't know that they necessarily feel that kind of pain.
Yeah, exactly. So here's one that I'm going to answer extremely quickly and move on. If Just Me Tim wants to know, will Trump or Vance attend the game? No, there was not an extremely significant amount of added security today, and also those guys are busy doing some stuff up in Washington, D.C., so no. Dave K. wants to know, how big is the Notre Dame press contingent compared to OSU?
I don't know that answer. I know at this table it was 2 to 1, me being the one, but I know it's a big beat. I don't think there's no beat as large as the Ohio State beat, but there are a lot of newspapers, a lot of websites, and things like that. So, like, all of the seats are filled in the press box. Although it is kind of annoying, Tom. Like, the PFFs and the football scoops have better seats than the people that cover these two teams every day.
Yeah.
But again, I'm here. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, right. It's this is as Ross Bjork, the athletic director for Ohio State, coming out now. There's a lot of media here. You're also in the main press box. There is an auxiliary press box upstairs. I was in the upper deck shooting a segment earlier and found that and thought, oh boy, that's the auxiliary press box. If you've never been in a game like this, they'll do this for like World Series games too. And what they do is every other row of seats in one section of the upper deck, there's one row that's like the regular stadium seats, and the row in front of that, they basically bolt a row, like a table on top of the row of seats in front of that, and that's your desk. So it's just every other row, there's a row of seats, and every other row is a row of desks. So that's the auxiliary press box. So you're in the proper, the regular press box. So that's
the auxiliary press box at Oregon was up on the roof of the press box.
It was, yes. And that was honestly, we went up there before the game. That was an awesome view, but it's here you go. Here's a couple more Buckeyes coming out. Those are, I think, I don't know who these guys are. I'm trying to decide. That's Riley Pettyjohn, who is an incoming freshman right there, linebacker. He's coming in now. We've seen these guys often enough that now I can kind of recognize them by jersey number. That's Javon McFadden. I lied. I don't know who that is. I think that might be Eli Lee coming in there, linebacker. Number 9 is Tavian Sinclair. The other number 9 might be Nate Roberts. That was just Bodkin Miller who coming in, the wide receiver out of Ontario, Ohio. So these are all the kind of early enrollee true freshmen who we were talking about earlier in terms of the benefit that they've gotten from being through here. It's a lot of people debating who is moderating in the chat, who is nuking all of these spammers. It's
Tom.
me. Yes, sorry. It's
I'm just trying to figure out what about the game.
If all the spammers, well, Tony, I can tell you about a place that's streaming. If all the spammers didn't use exactly the same thing with the red circles and also post 17 times, it would be much harder to catch them out of the corner of my eye. But well, if they were smart, they wouldn't be doing this. So anyway, we've got here comes these are going to be the specialists. Yes, those are the specialists coming out right now. Always Max Lamonaco, one of the backup long snappers. The long snappers always come out in full uniform first. It's just like a thing. It has always been a thing that those guys come out in their full uniforms first. Everyone else is out there in sweats or whatever for a little while. But the long snappers will come out in full uniform. So that's if you get your first picture of the guys in uniform, that's them. Here comes Nick McClarty on the left, backup punter.
I know who that is.
It should be Joe McGuire on the right, I think, but can't tell for sure. That was Devin Jordan, assistant wide receivers coach, coming out. Okay, so we're at another good little break here. Let's try and get another question in. Oh, we got a super chat. Perfect timing. Mateo Enfuego says, how fun is it as journalists to be reporting during this incredible run and now be at the Natty? Your coverage has been great. Thanks.
It's interesting because you're constantly busy and you have to sort of take a step back and remember hey, this is the national championship. Appreciate it, soak it in, but also then when something good happens or something bad happens, you've got to be able to work it. And then you have to, the thing that kind of hits me is you've got to cover it. You've got to put in a national championship effort when you're covering it, post game, pre-game, the entire build-up. And I think Tom's all over the place with the videos, getting you guys behind the scenes and all this stuff. The 1935 game, there's been a lot of effort to get to this game, so you try to provide a commensurate effort as well, and then afterwards meet what you've seen on the field, meet what you've seen throughout this entire season. I don't know that I did not expect to be here after that Michigan game. I didn't know how far, what Ohio State team were we going to see after that? No idea. And then once you see that, you're like, okay, something has clicked, and now anything is possible. And here you are. So yeah, it's fun. I would do this every year. It's exhausting. It's a lot of being away from home, which is not always easy. But you don't get to do this every year. But if you could, maybe you'd eventually get tired of it. But no, this has been fun, and we've got more coming.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting because it's as you said, after the Michigan game, you didn't really know what you were going to get. All season long, we've talked about the fact that this is the most talented team in the country. We're certainly in the top 2 in terms of most talented teams in the country. So you knew they could get here, but it was just, what team were you going to get after the Michigan game? And when you saw the first quarter of the Tennessee game, it was like, okay. And then you sort of looked at the Rose Bowl against Oregon and thought, these might be the 2 best teams left in this field. And then about the middle of the second quarter, it was like, Ohio State is going to win the national championship this year. That was sort of the moment that I kind of went, well, if they can do this to Oregon, it would take a remarkable effort from someone else to not have them win the national championship. And we'll see. Notre Dame has the last opportunity to keep that from happening. This just feels like a game where if Ohio State has an A+ effort and Notre Dame has an A+ effort, Ohio State's going to win by double digits. If Notre Dame has a C+ effort and Ohio State has a C+ effort, Ohio State's going to win by double digits. It would take an A effort and a C+, for Notre Dame, and a C effort for Ohio State, something like that, for Notre Dame to win. Could it happen? Absolutely, it could happen. Absolutely. But right now, especially with as banged up as Notre Dame is, it just feels like that's going to be. It would take an extraordinary effort from Notre Dame to win this game. Possible? Absolutely.
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 Yes.
Absolutely possible.
We've been trying to reiterate, like, yes, this is a thing that can happen because they
100%.
they find ways, and in games like this, things can get tight for the favorite.
TK says, I always wonder how the players stay loose before the game during all the pregame festivities. There can't be much room in the locker rooms. These are NFL locker rooms here. I mean, these are pretty good sized locker rooms. And so there's space. This is not, hey, you're at Wrigley Field and you're in the like batting cages getting ready or something like that, which they've had to do this season. And there's plenty of space in terms of how they stay loose. A lot of it is the stuff that people complain about after losses. And it's, why are they dancing so much? It's like, you're trying to have fun. You're trying to not get stressed out. You're trying to, everyone walks in wearing Beats headphones or whatever. Like, they're listening to music. They're singing along with the music. Sometimes they're dancing on the sideline. Sometimes they're doing their little choreographed celebrations on the field, whatever it is. That's all part of this, and it's just part of the game day routine for these guys. And that's why there was a portion of the practice time that we got to see earlier in the week where I saw JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer doing like a choreographed celebration where JT Tuimoloau mimed alley-ooping a basketball to Jack Sawyer, and then Jack Sawyer took like a jump shot, which is like, that's not really how that works, but that's okay. But it's stuff like that. That's just it looks goofy. It looks silly. It's just like part of the routine, and everyone has their own routine. I've talked about coaching youth softball for years, and for a lot of those girls on the team, it's like they do each other's eye black and stuff, and it's like, it's just a thing they do. Do you need eye black? Well, it's cloudy, so no, you don't. But it's like, that's just part of the routine of getting ready. And it's every team has their own thing. Every player has their own thing. But a lot of times it's the little goofy stuff like that that's the rhythm. That's the rhythm of the game day for those guys. And that gets them into the mood to play.
Yeah, and that continues into the game and into breaks as well, like the Rocky Top playing. Like when Tennessee was in Columbus and they had Rocky Top playing, you had Jack Sawyer and Tyler Williams dancing around, doing some square dancing essentially together. So there's plenty of dancing in that game, and I know some people hate it, but I don't think it's caused any losses so far.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to punch up a couple more. I am trying to balance the. Let's see. Hang on. Okay. Here's one earlier from Wrigley Puppy Frog. I'm curious, do you get to keep the slick cameraman vest you wear at games? The answer is sometimes. Did at the Rose Bowl, because they printed those specifically for the Rose Bowl, so it had college football playoff semi and quarterfinal and the Rose Bowl logo on it. This one, the Cotton Bowl, I did not, because it was just a regular old Cotton Bowl thing that they could reuse the next year. This one, I don't know if you can see, says National Championship Game Atlanta 2025. They are not going to be able to reuse that one. So I suspect I will get to keep this one. If you're looking for me on TV, it'll be hard to see because it's behind the credential, but I am vest 008. Just barely. Tony, if we had just gotten here, if we had not made that wrong turn on the way to the parking garage, I could have been vest 007 and been living my absolute best life. But
there's no way they give that one out. That's like the 13th floor on the elevator. It's like it doesn't exist. There's no 007 because all of you people want it so badly.
Yes, for sure. So we've got I'm just looking to see if we got anyone else coming out right now. This is when I dipped out earlier, Tony. I promise I won't listen. Dave K wanted to know that now that Tom was gone, tell me how big of a diva he really is.
He's not a diva at all. Kevin and myself are much more diva-ish than Tom, but he does have a huge temper. Like this diva, no. Angry, yes. You wrong salad dressing at the buffet, forget about it. If somebody's going to hear about it, the soup spoon, you might get hit with it. So just always Russian dressing if Tom is around.
You're lucky you're up in the press box, mister. All right, let's hang on. Now we've got Facebook spammers. Come on, gang. Let's see. Hang on. All right. Jake D says, one last W, guys. Thanks for the journey this season. This has been just thinking through this season. this has been so much fun. Even the games that were not, at Oregon. Like at Oregon, that was a trip I was looking forward to making in 2020, and we didn't get to go out there. So to get to go out there, and then that is an amazing stadium. It's a cool setup. The city's nice. Like everything about that was great, and it was a fantastic game. That was a great trip. The Indiana game was such a big game. The Penn State game was such a big game. The Michigan game, that is a Michigan game that people are going to be talking about 50 years from now. Lord knows the people in our comments are going to be talking about it 50 years from now. But even that, which I'm sure Ohio State fans were not super happy about at the time, that's been going to be an iconic game, especially if Ohio State wins tonight. And then the Tennessee game, the first ever home college football game for Ohio State, and you had the enormous group of Tennessee fans. That was an amazing setup. The Rose Bowl, my absolute favorite place in the world to watch a football game. That was an incredible game to get to go to. Texas, with all the Texas fans there, that was an incredible game. And now you're here at the national championship game, and it's the two biggest teams, programs in terms of fan bases in the entire sport. Two teams that are located 4.5, 5 hours apart, and they've only played like 8 times in history. So, this is a great helmet game in addition to being the national championship and a cool venue. And it has been really, really amazing to be part of this. And, as Ryan Day keeps saying, there are so many incredible stories on this team. And, those stories only get told if you win. But Ohio State is 60 minutes away from us getting to tell a lot of those stories.
Well, it's been incredible, the bounce back from Michigan, experiencing the ball fan invasion into Columbus and thinking is it going to be 50-50? Does anybody care anymore? And seeing who actually still cared. And then because of that, you get to go to the Rose Bowl, and boom, that's an amazing experience. You'll never see anything like that again. Just the way Ohio State exploded. That's going to be an all-timer game. Then you get to Texas, and you see an all-time play by Jack Schwartz. You see another one earlier in the game by Travion Henderson when you need it, completely out of the blue, to change the complexion, to change the momentum. But then if Ohio State finishes this off, all of it means so much more. All of it has made that experience even more incredible. To be in the stadium for what is maybe, if Ohio State wins today, assuming there's no big play bigger than what Jack Sawyer had last week, that may be the biggest play in Ohio State football history. And you were there. It was incredible.
It's funny. I was just looking. I'm like, Tim May. And turned around and looked behind me. No, Tim May was behind you. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong guy. Tim May, one of my absolute favorites of all time. So Guy Gurley wants to know if Ohio State wins, the Michigan loss this year, maybe in hindsight, is the best loss ever. I've said that. I said that at one point, and it was like, what if I say this? Are you going to get mad? And I think it's kind of become conventional wisdom to a certain degree where, would they have done this without that? Maybe. But we know that what they've done with that loss, and, it's real easy to say you can learn from wins. It's a lot easier to learn from losses. And that may have been exactly what Ohio State needed to have. The defense is 180 degrees from what the defense was after the Oregon game, because they lost the Oregon game and they were willing to look at it and make some tough choices and some big changes. It feels like you kind of had that with the offense, because in the same way that we've talked about, it's more of a Jim Knowles defense. And I've talked to Ross Bolton about that a bunch. After that Oregon game, it's a lot more of a Jim Knowles defense, and you've seen the results. Ryan Day has talked about the fact that, he is a little bit more involved in the offense, in the passing game, and it's a little bit more of a Ryan Day passing game. And boy, that has worked out real well in the playoffs.
Well, Ryan Day, it may have been after the Oregon game. I don't think it was after the Tennessee game, but he was asked, was the Michigan game necessary for you guys to play like this? Or was the Michigan loss a good thing? He was like, I'm never going to say that. But then he said, you are the result of what you've been through. And so that is part of what they've been through. And if they finish this off with a win, kind of like we were saying in 22, if they beat Georgia, nobody cares about the loss to Michigan. Now, I think people care a little bit more now just because it's been 4 in a row. So, and it's been so long since they've beaten Michigan. But again, what would you rather have? And if you say you win over Michigan, you're part of that 2% of the lunatic fringe, perhaps. But clearly, I think I saw Bobby Carpenter on ESPN talking about this game. He showed, he's like, I've got 3 pairs of gold pants and 1 national championship ring. I'd give up a pair of gold pants for another ring. And that's from a player who has done both.
Yeah. And, talking about the national championship rings for that 2002 national championship, you wrote a notebook this week about a guy who won a national championship ring in 2002. That was, of course, Will Smith, defensive end, who has a son. The late Will Smith has a son, Will Smith Jr., on this year's team. And I thought it was really interesting, Will Smith Jr. talking about his dad's ring and what that meant to him. And then now he's got a chance to win one himself.
Yeah, and credit to you. You talked to him. I just use your quotes. But like when you asked him, did you ever put his dad's ring on? He's like, shoot, yeah. I was like, it was freaking huge. But, he did say, like, if they can win it, he'll wear them both and kind of just let the Smith name live on and that sort of thing. And to be in the history books with your dad, with your father like that is certainly something special. And again, there are so many stories on this team. And as Ryan said, the only way they get told is if you win. And the story gets that much better for them as well. So there's obviously a lot riding on this one. We haven't really talked so much about the game because we've been answering a lot of questions, but I do expect a crisp, clean, solid game from Ohio State. I think both teams are going to be really, really focused. Clearly, I think the moment won't be too big for either program or the teams. I think they've been well prepared, well coached, veterans. Even though Notre Dame's a little bit younger at areas, I think you're going to see a pretty clean game by 2 clean teams. And yet, I think Ohio State's skill and talent will eventually just take over.
Well, as you were talking there, I thought about something that I haven't really thought about before now, which is this is your 4th college football playoff game of this season. And they've played big games all year. They played, just ran through the list when we were talking about the great games they played. At Oregon, you're playing on the road in like a top 3 matchup in a hostile environment. At Penn State, you're playing in a top 5 matchup in a hostile environment. Indiana was a top 5 matchup at the time in a friendly environment. And then, the Michigan game is the Michigan game every year. And then Tennessee in the first round of the college football playoffs. And then Oregon in the Rose Bowl. And then Texas in the Cotton Bowl. This is a team that has played in enormous games. In basically half of its schedule, you would say, like, that was a big game. They have a chance to win something like 6 games against top 10 teams this year. Teams that are going to finish the year in or close to the top 10. That's insane. This is potentially going to be the greatest resume, and I think probably will be. I'm saying this without having gone back and looked. Maybe there was a 19-6 Notre Dame team that beat Carlisle Indian School and Army 3 times or whatever. But this is an Ohio State team that could finish the year with the greatest resume in college football history. So by the time you get here, sure, there are going to be big game jitters, but this is not, welcome to the show, kid, first time in the major leagues. This is a team that's been playing in these games all year long. And Notre Dame is kind of in the same boat. Notre Dame, they've had to run through 3 teams in the college football playoff to get to this point, and you've played good teams. So these should be teams that are pretty battle tested at this point. And I know I've seen a lot of this just proves that the college football playoff is a joke because these teams, Ohio State lost to Michigan and Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. You can't tell me that these are not 2 teams. Whoever wins it this year is going to earn it. There is not. You don't back into a championship if you have to win 4 college football playoff games. So whoever wins this, you have to tip your cap and say, like, congratulations, you are the best team this year. Because who else are you? Who missed out? Like, who didn't get their chance this year? Everyone got their chance. Like, it's like the gripe is not, okay, the the third best team in the country might have secretly been the second best team in the country. It's, well, Alabama, who got firebombed by a 6-6 Oklahoma team and also lost to a 6-6 Vanderbilt team, really secretly they were the best team in the country. And it's like, okay, sure, you can make that argument, but also the rest of the SEC also kind of crapped their pants in the postseason, both in the playoff and not in the playoff. So I don't think they really deserve the benefit of the doubt. So the best team in the country was in this tournament somewhere, and these are the teams that have won the games to get to this point. So it's hard to say that these teams are not completely 100% deserving of the national championship.
No, and we said it before the season. Whoever wins this will have run through the most difficult gauntlet in college football history. And to that point, Pete Thamel tweeted out some ESPN stats info. So Ohio State currently has 4 wins over AP top 5 opponents this season. That is tied with 2019 LSU, 1967 USC, and 1943 Notre Dame as the most in college football history since the AP poll became a thing. So a win tonight would give them more than anybody else. And so, we've talked about it last week or the week before. Ohio State has been on red alert for part of 2 months now. We've talked about how we've been in big game mode, covering Indiana and Michigan, and then getting ready for the playoffs in Tennessee and Oregon and Texas, and now the biggest game of them all. So, we clearly well conditioned to do this. The Buckeyes are as well, but they've been tested. They've been prepared all along. They've been prepared every step of the way for what they've seen, and what they'll see from Notre Dame, I don't think is anything different than what they've seen from teams here and there throughout the season. So I think there's familiarity all over the place for the Buckeyes in this one. Whereas I don't think that is the case the other way around. What have they seen? What has Notre Dame seen over the course of the year that matches what they will see this one? Bits and pieces here and there from teams, but overall, I think Ohio State has seen something similar to everything Notre Dame can do, including special teams like Dan Lanning pulling some crazy stuff out. I don't think that's the case where.
Yeah, I think that's right. If you're just looking at Oregon and Notre Dame, and that's that's probably the best team Ohio State's played this year, I would say. Oregon, I mean, they finished the year number 1 in the country. You got their best shot. It was not, Oregon beat them the first time. And let's transition real quickly to this because here we go from Uncle Rico. He said, if the coaches said Oregon needed 12 players on the field to beat us, that was what Chip Kelly said to motivate the players. What will they say about Notre Dame having 10 players on the field? I saw this one earlier. We can get back to that. I do want to finish my thought on Oregon. Oregon, if it's not a 1-to-1 in terms of Notre Dame, but Oregon is probably a better version of Notre Dame, where they do have the special teams, they do have the defense, they've got a good, very good defensive line. Oregon was much healthier than Notre Dame is right now. The offensive line, and Oregon probably get healthier a little bit better. Running back's probably pretty similar. Quarterback probably a little better for Oregon. Wide receivers probably a little better for Oregon. And so you got at least you got a very close game the first time, but it took some stuff going wrong for Ohio State to lose that game. And now you're playing probably not quite as good a version of Oregon. Again, it's not a 1-to-1, but between the injuries and some of the personnel, it just feels like this is probably not going to be the best team that Ohio State plays in the college football playoff.
I would agree with that, but you're still going to need to play your best, and that's going to be the message. We should go back to one of the super chats about how can Ohio State lose this if they don't turn it over. It's thinking of this game in the terms that Tom just used, where Notre Dame's not even going to be the best team we play. They can't be thinking about that. Right. I wouldn't expect them to be thinking about that. But if they were, that could also help lead to a Notre Dame win. There is no reason to take anybody lightly at this point. As you said through the playoffs, now Ohio State has played so well that maybe they've built up some confidence, but also why change what has gotten to this point? And at no point were they taking anybody lightly. They were just focused on themselves, and everything else to take care of itself. I think that's the same case here, where do what you keep doing, what you've been doing. No reason to change anything now, which has been the messaging from Marcus Freak. And I think both guys are right. Just do what got you here, and then see what happens afterwards.
Yep. Speaking of people that need to be booted from the college football playoff field, spammers, everyone. Hooray. Kevin is going to be wrapping up and headed up to the press box in just a little bit. And so at that point, I'll hand it off to him. If you guys have specific names that you'd like us to kick out of the chat, I think you guys are just talking about the spam folks, which we do not have the ability to IP block them. I'm just doing that by manually each time. But if there's someone in the chat that's being annoying that I'm not noticing, let me know, and we can just simplify life with that. I think there was a first of all, Drowsy Dragon wants to know if we gave our score predictions. We did. They are on BuckeyeHuddle.com. Those are all there. Our whole team has put in their score predictions, and I went with, golly, what did I go with? I think I went with 28-10, something like that. Ohio State. I struggle to see how Notre Dame scores consistently on this Ohio State defense, because they'll be able to run the ball some, but Ohio State is best in first or second in the country in terms of yards per carry allowed. Notre Dame's offensive line is banged up. I think that's potentially a problem. Notre Dame is going to be able to throw the ball some, but I don't think they're going to be able to throw the ball. Riley Leonard is not history's most accurate passer, and the Notre Dame wide receivers are fine, but they're not incredible. So I'm struggling to see how Notre Dame strings together a bunch of 60 and 70-yard drives in this game. So if they can't do that, okay, then how do they score points? And that goes back to the stuff we talked about in terms of, well, if they don't get a bunch of short fields, well, then you're gonna struggle to move the ball. You're gonna struggle to score if you don't get either defensive touchdowns, special teams touchdowns, or short fields from defense and special teams. I don't know. I don't think Notre Dame can score 24 points in this game without getting defensive or special teams help. So, then the question is, can Ohio State score 28? And I think the answer is yes, Ohio State can score 28.
I've got it going 31-17, maybe like a late touchdown for Notre Dame. Because, again, I just think Notre Dame's going to struggle to move the ball consistently. They might get that opening drive and go from there. But I do expect Ohio State's defense to just continue to assert itself. And it may never look like it's completely out of reach just because it's 7 points in the first quarter, 7 points in the second. And by the end of the game, it's a late touchdown for whomever makes it a 14 or 17-point game. I went 31-17. I know Kevin did as well. Went 31-17. Independent. Neither of us knew what we were picking, so that's where we are. You can again find breakdowns and thoughts and opinions from all of us at BuckeyeHuddle.com.
Here's an interesting one from Mr. Bucknuts. He says, 2015 was a damn good team that lost to Michigan State, and that kind of goes into another conversation where the benefit of a 12-team playoff for a school like Ohio State and a program like Ohio State, where they have narrowly missed out on the college football playoff so many times over the years. 2013, they lost to Michigan State in the Big Ten championship game. That was the year before the 4-team playoff, but they would have made it there in a 12-team era. 2015, they miss out on the national champion or the 4-team playoff because of the loss to Michigan State. 2016, they make it. 2017, they miss out narrowly because of the loss to Iowa. 2018, they miss out narrowly. And all of these, Ohio State's like the 5th-ranked team in the country, 6th-ranked team in the country, narrowly missing out and would have been at least solidly middle of the pack in terms of a 12-team bracket. 2021, they would have been in the tournament somewhere. 2022, they made it, but certainly would have had a little bit more of a run-up to that Peach Bowl. 2023, they would have made it. And again, these are always more talented teams than most of the teams in the nation. And so that's why this year's Ohio State team, being a beneficiary of the expansion to a 12-team playoff, I think is probably representative of what probably would have happened in a whole lot of previous seasons if that 12-team playoff had been in there. Geiger Lee wants to know, will Will Howard be the only OSU quarterback to see the field tonight?
I think people would like to see Devin Brown get an opportunity just because this is kind of his goodbye. However, if Ohio State is winning and has the ball at the end, Will Howard needs to be the guy taking it. He needs to be the guy finishing it full. That should be his last thing here. That doesn't mean you can't get Devin Brown in there if there's an opportunity. They're not going to do it. It would have to be very comfortable for them to do it. But again, I still think it has to be Will Howard at the end. I just think he should be the one taking the knee if they're winning. Now, it may be Notre Dame with the ball at the end, so it may not matter. But I won't be shocked. Although I don't. What does the score need to get to?
I think if they're up 3 scores, maybe slightly more, do you just want to set that up right there, or do you want to just take this? Okay, so you can. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a handoff right now. Kevin Newman going to join you. Watch the chat. A lot of spammers in the chat. So you're gonna get some hop-ons. So I'm going to hand it off to Kevin Newman right now. You can try and plug into the bottom of this mic and see. Oh, you know what? You can't, because here, use my AirPods. That's kind of gross, but that's okay. It is gross. It's not plugged into the computer. There's not a headphone jack. Okay, so anyway, editorial meetings, everyone. You can try and see if it works. I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear. You could change the. Will you punch out of the show if you?
No, you can just change it in the setting.
There you go.
Your output.
Okay.
I don't want that. I want that.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I cannot hear you. Kevin does not have a vest. He'll be sitting up in the press box, but we can go wherever we want essentially until the game starts. I still can't hear you, Kevin.
I should have just come upstairs.
I got you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Give me a minute. You keep talking.
No. No, see, Troy, I cannot sing a song because it would infringe on the copyright. We would get a strike. We would not be able to monetize this. Plus, then I'd have everybody asking for me to sing songs, and I'm not going to do it. I'll become far too popular, and I'm an introvert anyway. I don't want to be popular. I just want to be where I am now. So if I sing, I'll change it. How's it going, Kevin? You got anything good? Sage Johanna says it won't work without the vest. That may be the point. So if you've got one, you know what? Just take the sleeves off of your shirt and go with that. But we can hear you. We can hear the room. So I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, we got to.
No, I'm not going to sing on let's see, Grant. I will not be doing that. No McRibs, no singing, nothing like that. Hey, everybody, it's just me here. I have no power to pop up some questions, but I'll see if I can find some for you. I do agree. Computers getting rid of the headphone jacks is annoying. Robert Howard says you can't get this anywhere else, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, I'm going to take that as a compliment. Appreciate that. Midstream stuff going on. And Kevin and I still haven't talked about how we're going to end the show. So you'll get that experience as well. Let's see, what else do we have? Kevin is here to save us from the spammers.
I can hear. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you. I got.
You don't get to eat. You don't get to eat then.
Well, I mean, food has been out for an hour and 20 minutes, so I may not if I don't ever get off the show.
Yeah, well, you better go eat. What
are you going to do?
I already ate. It was delicious. The mac and cheese was fantastic.
Did I hear it's ribs as well?
It's ribs and chicken and mac and cheese. No, it's more of a baked chicken, but it was good.
I don't like eating with my hands. I don't like ribs. It's messy. I've got a laptop here. Like, I don't understand. If I change one thing about college football, stop putting ribs in a press box meal. That's it. That's the only thing I would change.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, but why don't you go? Why don't you go eat while the getting's good? I will hold down the fort for now, and then we will figure out what the next step is after that.
Great. Sounds good to me.
All right, I'm gonna punch out. All right, see you. Hey everybody! It is the pre-game show, Monday, January 20th. I just came back from the field, checking out the team arrival. Brought it here to the show. Sitting here in the digital workroom right now, underneath the stadium, just right off the field. So I'm not sure exactly where we were in terms of the comments. So if I missed a comment, I do apologize profusely. But a lot of you were able to join me earlier for Big Me Kickoff, earlier today, the pre-game show. What are your thoughts on the game? I'm sure we've already asked everybody what they think the outcome is going to be. Obviously, a pro-Ohio State show means there are going to be a lot of pro-Ohio State scores, and I think that should be okay. And we got right here, unless the Buckeyes play tight, they should be all right. Now, that's a very valid point. You're playing for the national championship. There's no, well, we're playing with house money. We're playing loose. I mean, you are now at a point of where you are playing for the title. There's no tomorrow. Win or lose, there is no tomorrow. So you have to kind of go from that and be able to, you got to be able to perform. And I don't think we're going to see the type of egg that we saw against Michigan. I know that's a bad word. I know that's a bad term to use and everything else, but we're not going to see that. Ohio State, as of this morning, 8.5-point favorite. Yes, can Notre Dame go out there and win the game? Absolutely. Absolutely. This is not Purdue. This is not playing Purdue and sitting there and playing, that neighbor kid down the street who runs funny and is no good. They got helmets and shoulder pads and all that and scholarships and everything else. But if Ohio State goes out and plays its A game, if Ohio State goes out and plays its B+ game, what level of game is Notre Dame going to have to play? Notre Dame has to muddy it up. They got to get the water cloudy. They got to do some things. They got to force some turnovers. They need to do things that get Ohio State out of rhythm. We'll see. We will see. I'm trying to get rid of all of these junker comments of people feeding in spam in here. I do apologize. The chickens, Kevin Yoder is in the house. I got to get the beard oil. And be able to get this going a little bit better. Rick S., what you doing? What I'm doing right now is I am the fill-in talent while Tom and Tony get themselves a little dinner. They're grown boys. They need to be able to have a little bit of food before. This is going to be a long night. J-Dog says 47-13 Ohio State. That is a tremendous score right there. That means that everything would be working for Ohio State. I don't necessarily think that 13 is being that disrespectful to Notre Dame. I said Notre Dame will score 17 in my prediction of 31-17 Notre Dame. Will it be on Notre Dame's first drive when you sit there and you go against something that maybe you don't necessarily know how they're going to come out? We know what they're about. Run Jeremiah Love, run Jadarian Price, run Riley Leonard, mix in a little bit of throwing. But, Riley Leonard he's not been the quarterback that Ohio State has faced in the last two games. Now, who's the better quarterback in terms of throwing? Riley Leonard, who was probably a little bit more proficient at Duke than he's been at Notre Dame, or Nico Iamaleava, who they faced in the first round of the playoffs, somebody who's a tremendous runner. I think that Notre Dame has better receiving weapons around Leonard than what Tennessee has. The fact that Tennessee had nothing at wide receiver, in my opinion. And I'm not trying to be critical of Squirrel White. I'm not trying to be critical of Thornton Jr. there, Dante Thornton Jr. They just didn't have a lot of weapons. And then when they just got out of their sorts, I mean, it was lights out. I don't expect that type of game tonight here in a little bit more than an hour. Ohio State says Ohio State 31, the Irish 13. Geiger Lee says Sulu is now in the captain's chair. I'm more of like the admiral of Starfleet. and they are all my minions. Come on, let's get this right. Let's get this right. Let's just keep going there. Queen Corp says, I respect the Buckeyes either way. I'm coming in late into some conversation, so I may not know the context. So I apologize. I will read some things from Notre Dame fans who have found us. Nuts crack when they're hammered. Irish run up and down to a 27-24 win. When this season have you seen a team run it up and down on Ohio State? That is my question for you. Oregon in the first matchup, Jordan James had a pretty good game, but I can't necessarily say that it was an amazing game. Obviously, Michigan ran it pretty well against Ohio State because Lord knows they couldn't throw. Davis Warren threw for 61 yards in that game. But with Notre Dame's offensive line issues, left tackle out, right guard beat up, I think that's a pretty optimistic viewpoint. Now, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I think you're wrong, but I'm not here to tell you what to think exactly. So, we'll kind of go from there. Todd says that Day and company need to empty the cupboard, leave no doubt. You're not holding any plays back for Texas in August or September, whenever the hell that game is. You're not holding anything back. Well, we'd really like to run this, but we'd like to run it against Texas later. Different personnel, different scenario, different world, anything you have, but don't get to the point of where you try to be who you're not. You're not going to come out and say, let's just run single wing at this point. They're never going to see it coming, and you've not practiced single wing. And I'm really over exaggerating to make a point. You need to do what it is that, what has gotten you to this point, what has gotten you here to game 16, what has gotten you here to Atlanta, and go from there. But, if you have some things out of formations that are familiar but are different looks that break tendencies, by all means, if it looks like it's something that you could work, you run it. So I'd be incredibly shocked if we saw a very small play sheet. But then again, if my play sheet says throw it to Jeremiah Smith, I'm doing that too. Ohio State says Notre Dame is a better Iowa team. Ouch, baby. Ouch. That's rough. You may not like Notre Dame. I think there needs to be a little bit of respect on that name for this season. It's been a good season. Northern Illinois loss notwithstanding. But I hear you. I'm trying to go back to the Iowa game. That feels like 6 years ago at this point when Ohio State played them. They couldn't throw the ball. Riley Leonard obviously is a much better passer, and I'm taking a tongue-in-cheek comment with a couple of laughing faces and trying to have a conversation about it. So I apologize. I do understand you were joking. I'm not that dense. Mostly dense, but not that dense. I think that people may be sleeping a little bit on what the Notre Dame offense is capable of doing, but I'm also not going to look at the FSU game. I'm not going to look at the Navy game. I'm not going to look at the Stanford game and say that's what Notre Dame can do against Ohio State. They did that against two crappy teams, and then Navy's just always going to be out-athleted in that type of game. They're going to go and be, officers in the naval, in the Navy. But they're not. They're going to win one in 10 games against Notre Dame generally. So I can't get too far ahead of that. Let's just keep going here. Kenneth, about complaining about ribs is just wild. I don't like messy ribs either. I spill. I get junk all over myself. I'm not very good at those things. Can't do that on a work day, but. Yeah, ribs are an issue, but I think the chicken was boneless, if I remember right. I don't remember there being a bone in there. I only ate about half of it because I had to get down and do my job. So there you go. Problem with some of these shows is when the bots find us, it's game over, yo. It's game over. B. Douglas, 4210. Is that Buster Douglas or Bob Douglas? I don't know. I doubt it's Buster Douglas, but that's a hell of a score right there. Let's just keep nuking these spammers. Jake P., have you gotten a feel for how the team seems? We get very little access in this situation, in this game, because We get into town on Friday. They get into town Friday night. We get to talk to Ryan Day. We don't get to talk to the team, so that's Friday. Saturday, we get media day. Sunday, we get Ryan Day again. And we got like 14 seconds of practice as well. I mean, running out there on the field, they look pretty calm. I mean, I don't think they were going to sit there and poop down their leg coming out and doing that. I don't think that's, but I understand the point. I have a buddy who is I have a lot of buddies that are Ohio State fans, but I have one that's a huge fan. He's like, every 4 hours, how's the team feel? How's the team seem? I'm like, bro, I don't know. I mean, according to the people I talk to, everything seems right. It's a business trip. They got everything set up, but how do you respond to that first bit of adversity? You get a personal foul that kills a drive. You get, you sit there and you get a crummy spot that and forces you to punt. How do you react to that? I think that's more important to me than just, are you tight? Are you loose or whatever? Because as soon as you get out there and start playing ball, it all changes anyway. I mean, scared money don't make money. These guys are, as close to professionals as you can be. They're not going to sit there and absolutely, poop the bed or anything like that. Okay, let me keep going here. Buckeye G, 42-16. We got 28-20 from Montana, 808 beats. Rick S. says, our Buckeyes are on the field warming up. Yes, I left the field for that, to get in here, to let the guys have a chance to eat. Two beats, 47. The boys are showing out tonight. That certainly would be good news and make for a really good post-game show. So there we go. Let's just keep going here. Ohio State says Notre Dame is not playing Indiana. As impressive as the 98-yard Jeremiah Love touchdown run was how unimpressive Indiana was on defending that play. It seriously looked like Keystone Cops out there. It was gross. They look like old Indiana, not new Indiana. And I'm not convinced that 2025 Indiana is going to look like 2024 Indiana. But there you go. Let's just keep going here. We're going to delete another spammer because I don't like that. Let's just keep going here. Buzz Waldron says that Ohio State, Oregon was the real natty. But I thought Ohio State, Texas was the real natty. Nobody said that Ohio State, Tennessee was the real natty. I think Tennessee kind of was grossly overrated. But this is the real natty. It is what it is. And I understand what you're saying there. But the second you start thinking that, the second you put that in your mind, that's rat poison. That's going to be the rat poison that's going to cost you the game. That's going to be the rat poison that's going to sit there and turn this into a what could have been season. That's the rat poison that's going to let Marcus Freeman hoist that trophy over his head and give it a big old smooch. So you can't allow that to get into your mind. You can't allow yourself to think that. Let's just keep going. We're going to keep going again. I'm just here trying to get through some comments right now at this point to fill the gap until Tom and Tony are back. J-Dog saying, shut down the spam, please. The issue I have is that I'm still about 5 minutes behind, 6 minutes behind. So let me run through and try and get caught up to it. The problem is every time I nuke one, another one shows up. So I'm not necessarily in a position of where I am I'm living in the past. So I'm going through, I'm deleting this. So if I don't get to your comment, it's because I'm being, the spam deterrent. I'm being, sir spam a lot. So I think we're current with all that. So there you go. I saw my name mentioned a couple of times. Here's one, Nooner on fire, 38-10. Good guys. 38 feels like a lot of points. It really does, but I can see a path for that. 10 for Notre Dame feels a little light, but we'll see. We'll see. That's what makes all of this fun. That's what makes all of this fun, to sit there and watch the game and go through it. Because again, if games were played on paper, we wouldn't have to watch them. We could just EA Sports sim the crap and be done with it. But that wouldn't be fun. But then again, you wouldn't have to pay $5,800 to get in the door here all in for tickets. And that was about the price I saw as I was walking over here to the digital media room. And I just cannot believe that. KJ, how many press at the game? I don't know, and I never will know. They're through various rooms. They're in the press box. They're here in the digital room. ESPN has its own compound. A lot. The number is a lot. So there you go. We got this from Prodigal Ocarist. Long live the past. The present has mods to kill the spam for you. I'm doing my best with that. I think that the post-game show will be salty too with a lot of spam. The plans for the post-game show, you're going to want to make sure that you watch our post-game show. Let me say that. Let me get to the bottom of the line so I can make sure that nobody spams us while we're doing this. We're going to be joined by Mark Givler. I think Garrett Seawright might be jumping. Maybe Devin Redcliffe. They're going to sit there, give you analysis while we wait for all of the podium conversation, both Ohio State and Notre Dame, regardless of the outcome. We will have all of that. Tom and Tony will then carry the show for a while. They'll give you their unique perspective on the game, a little bit of humor, a little bit of analysis, everything else there. I have a feeling this is going to be a long show. I have a feeling that we may throw back to Columbus at some point. We may throw back here to Atlanta at some point. And I want to have enough time to have a beer tonight. So we got to have a curfew at some point. So help a brother out on that. Let me at least get a beer tonight. Don't tell Tom and Tony. But as I was just reminded, media room is open till 4 a.m. If this show is still on at 4 a.m. Eastern time, you're either loving this, you know what, or I am just, we're just in some sort of downward spiral. I don't know what's going on. I'm hoping for the prior. We got, Eric says, a couple of mods in here would police the spam bots. I'm doing the best that I can. The problem is I cannot predict when the bots are coming. I can only react. I cannot get ahead. This isn't like Minority Report or anything like that. I've got to sit there, and I just dropped my phone on the floor. That's a problem. Give me a second. I have to wait until they respond, and then I can nuke them. So that's what I'm doing here. Somebody said, Mike Ferguson said, I'm in the basement. It is kind of the basement. I'm on the field level of Mercedes-Benz Stadium, right by the elevator to go back up to the press box. Hopefully, one way or the other, I will be up there in time to get settled before the game starts. Mark Kaiser, Grateful Griddle, yes, great sponsor of ours. I don't have the read. Tom has it memorized. I don't have it memorized, but Buckeye-owned, Buckeye-led business, food trucks, smash burgers, all that good stuff, corporate events, whatever you got, big-time party. Check out our partner at Grateful Griddle. I will let them do the read because I do not have the copy on that. I'm just kind of looking to see. Doug Shepard says, to drink on the air, Kevin, we won't mind. I know you won't mind. And I'm not going to lie, I've had a bourbon or two on the air in the past couple of years. But with that being said, I kind of want to be able to relax too. Super chat, Mike Farino, something weird on DraftKings. Notre Dame now has 55% of the money line bets, but only 47% of the bets are predicting them to cover the spread. Yeah. I have not had a chance to look at a couple of my favorite Twitter accounts in terms of betting to see really where all of the handle is and everything else on this. There's Ben Fawkes, Fawkes. Be sure to subscribe to his Substack. He does a lot of great stuff out there. There's John Ewing out there on Twitter. He does some stuff. I think he's with BetMGM. There's a lot of data out there that you can get. I don't necessarily, again, I'm not necessarily in a position of where I've had a chance to see all of it. I probably needed to spend the last 2 hours on Twitter rather than out on the field to be able to get that. Let me see what else is going on. We got, hey, I'm from Mexico. Skycast not working. Are there any sites for free game online? I'm sure there are. I don't deal in that world. So I'm not your guy. I'm sure the chat will hook you up with some places to look. I mean, whether or not you are locked in on wanting to watch just the Skycast versus the traditional broadcast or the Pat McAfee broadcast or whatever, I don't know. I'm just going to have to figure it out. Kenneth, they're offering to help you, Kevin, not blaming you. No, I get it. The problem is to have somebody as a moderator takes multiple steps to get you in. We operate through a platform versus, dealing straight through YouTube. We simulcast to Facebook. We simulcast to Twitter X. So there are a lot of steps to it. No, I wasn't feeling attacked or anything. I was just pointing out the reality of it. Jake D says use buff streams. You can stream it online, so you have the opportunity for that. I am late to kind of this JJ Smith, whatever. I don't know what's being talked about there with JJ. I saw him run out onto the field. It is what it is. Mike Ferguson says Buckeye Huddle will let anybody in. See example, Tony. Well, I, for one, since Tony just popped back on into the green room, am the biggest Tony fan in the world. You, sir, are a monster. You're terrible. Do not talk about my Tony like that. When he waves, I'll bring him back in. I don't know if he's done with his food or whatever. Here he is. So you have some splaining to do, sir. You have some splaining to do.
That's all great, Kevin. Why are you not blocking these spammers? Can you do something about?
Oh my! I don't know. I think you guys weren't blocking spammers because they're having a little spam convention or something. I don't know what's going on. Mike Ferguson regrets nothing.
Kevin, did you give the people your score prediction?
31-17, Ohio State. Earlier in the process, I felt a lot better about Ohio State Notre Dame hitting the number. I think now I'm expecting a little bit of a lower scoring game. I don't know why. I think it's because I have a bet on the over, and it's just generally how it works.
And right now, you can get into this game for just under $4,000 if you want.
It's come down. It's come down a little bit. Is that an all-in number?
Yeah. Well, that's from ESPN. It's Vivid Seats, I believe. Now, as I click on it, you can get 2 tickets down to $3,805. That is in the end zone. So
you see, I've got my best deal on TickPick is $58.61 all in. That's section 333, row 21. You can get up to 5 tickets. I accidentally put a couple of tickets in my cart, ticking around on there. Apple Pay was like, "Oh, would you like to pay for this?" It ain't going through, son. It ain't going through.
I know there's one where you can get up to 9 tickets in the section 332 for $4,200 each. I hope those people swallow those tickets. I get so annoyed at people buying up all of the tickets just for this resale, this sort of thing. And now hopefully they have to swallow those.
I hear you. We got another super chat from Mike Farino. Kevin looked at John Ewing. Apparently 78% of the money is on OSU -6 first half. DraftKings is just percentage of bets not factoring in money, so could be mostly small bets. I'm really curious once the sharps come in here, the sharp money should be coming in at this point. So if we see any movement in the next 30 minutes, that's going to be your monster bets. That's going to be maybe your 7-figure bets. I have a buddy who I met through some of the work I do at WagerWire. He has a couple of bets in. If Ohio State wins, I think he's in line for payouts of almost $500,000. So I'm going to ask him to sign up for the site. And you know what? He can afford to do it, and you can too. It's only $4.99 for your first month. There's not a whole lot going on in Buckeye Nation right now. Why would you want to do that? But yes, you would. Tom, Tony, myself covering the site. Mark Gibler covering recruiting. Ross and his team of experts making you a better football fan with the X's and O's. The Huddle chat board presented by Jeff Ruby, Steakhouse Columbus. I think I've hit all of the finer points. Any other reason why you should probably sign up? Oh, yeah. If Ohio State wins, you could maybe get yourself some confetti from the championship game. That would be pretty cool. You could go and buy that on eBay for like $25-$50, or you could sign up for $4.99 for Buckeye Huddle and be around the greatest Buckeye community in all of Buckeye Nation. BuckeyeHuddle.com, $4.99.
Again, Kevin, the confetti on eBay, that's black market confetti. I do not recommend buying black market confetti. You don't know where that's come from. Whereas here, we can verify that we picked it up off the ground ourselves.
Tom Orr will put a hologram on every single piece. Granted, we're going to have to raise our dues, our fees up to $499 a month if that's the case, because holograms don't come cheap. Geiger Lee, Kevin, did you refer to Tom and Tony as some of your minions? No, I said onions. They're some of my onions, not minions.
Appreciate it.
Yes. Portnoy watching this game locked all the way in.
I'm sure
He's an acquired taste. He's an acquired taste. El Suzabo, good friend of the show. El Suzabo, why aren't you a member yet? Come on, do it. All the cool kids are. Mika Hanna did it. ESPN showed the line at -9 a bit ago. Again, I came straight from the field here because I knew my growing boys needed to eat dinner, so I did not have a chance to do any show prep.
ESPN bet showing -8.5 right now for Ohio State. With the number being 45.5, which seems like a lot until you put your score in at 31-17.
I know. So, but then again, let's remember, let's go back to 06 Ohio State, Michigan. It was like two of the best defenses in the nation. Everybody's like, this is going to be 13-10. It was 42-39. So, it's kind of crazy how some of that stuff works. I'm deleting these idiots as quickly as I can. Please be patient with me. El Suzabo said it was on the Chiron on the ESPN TV. Look at who knows her TV terms. El Suzabo does. I'm impressed. I am impressed. So what did you think of the food, Tony?
Well, the green beans are too crunchy. I hate the way fancy people do their potato salad. It was not great. It was not good.
I didn't eat that. It looked too fancy. It was bougie.
I don't do ribs, especially with the laptop. My chicken looked a little pink, so I did not eat it. But mac and cheese was awesome, and so was the cornbread, and I had a cookie. Here's another thing. I had the last chocolate chip cookie. There's 30 peanut butter cookies. There's 30 sugar cookies. There's 60 oatmeal raisins. There's one chocolate chip cookie left. You don't need oatmeal raisin. We don't need it.
Unpopular opinion, I like oatmeal raisin.
That's right, but we don't need it. You need chocolate chip cookies.
I'm going to bring up a comment from Warpug. I'll let you read it.
Complaining about free food? Absolutely. You're going to make it free, I'm going to complain. Now, here's the thing. I'm only complaining to my friends. I'm not like tweeting about it or anything like that. Have I done that before? Let's not talk about that. But you do this long enough and you complain about it. It's anything. It's like anything. But
we know Tony's favorite meal was at Maryland the first year that they were in the Big Ten, and we got breakfast taco meat. There were no taco shells, there were no tortillas, there were no eggs, just a big old tray of breakfast taco meat for a noon game.
And they called it chili.
It wasn't chili. It wasn't chili. Golfer says it's always the chocolate chip. Totally agree. I'm not anti-chocolate chip. I think, though, that there are just times that something a little less sweet. The thing I have to make sure I don't do is have another one of those C4 energy drinks. It got me like way too jacked up. Way too jacked up.
It sounds like there's a lot going on the field. I can hear it. I've got a wall in front of me, but I can hear the crowd.
Yeah, we're 45 minutes away.
I can step away and give you a percentage. I'm going to take a look at the crowd. I'll be right back in 1 minute.
All right, I'll punch out. You'll wave at me. I'll punch you back. All right, Tony going to go try and get us a little bit of a shot of what the crowd looks like. I was out there for teams kind of going out in the field and doing some things. I was in the Ohio State tunnel, so I was sitting by more Ohio State fans. So I definitely think that I was hearing more of that. It sounded pretty even. It sounded more even. And somebody's calling me right now. I'm sure it's spam. Yes, it's spam. So I don't even know what to do with that. These sons of guns. Mozart's Ghost. I had no idea Bucky's was that big. Tom's video was eye-opening. We did a Triple H from Bucky's. I could have sworn at some point. I did a walk-in talk. But I guess apparently it was a case of you only wanted to watch Tom's version, which is fine. Tony is about ready to be punched back in. I'm just kind of there. I just got a thumbs up. So, Tony, please report.
Well, after doing the analysis and the mapping, I will say the seats are red, so that might factor in, but looks 50-50 to me. And I could not see all the way up into to some of the sections, but yeah, it doesn't look overwhelming one way or the other. And the sections are pretty even in terms of where they are. Like you can tell where the Notre Dame tickets went, and you can tell where the Ohio State tickets went. And so, looks like the even crowd as we kind of expected.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I always said, that there was going to be 15% or so of people that were just here just to have a nice time. People that are, donors, sponsors, Falcon season ticket holders, UGA fans that couldn't unload their tickets, whatever. But we also know what happens with a lot of those people. When it comes down to knuckle busting time, they pull for the underdog. So we'll see. It may be one way in the first quarter. It may be another way later if the game is still in contention or not. I'm getting ready to tap out here in a minute, but I'm not sure. I don't want to rush Tom back into this as I've gone in and completely commandeered and put spyware on his computer. That was the biggest mistake he's ever made by walking away. He has a look of like concern and anger at the same time.
I'm about to run back out to shoot some pictures.
He's going to go shoot some pictures of Notre Dame. So I may get up to my seat by the second quarter. Tony, you're going to have to handle watching the game.
Check out the private chat if you would.
We're going to check out the private chat. Okay. So Tony said, boy, I really hate Tom. I wish that he would take that camera and, oh my God. Yeah, but no, I agree. It's a very big lens. Take this job and shove it. Yeah, I think we should probably go about 10 more minutes. I think this sounds good to me. So we'll get you up to 7, which means that you will have to cope for 43 minutes or something like that. But we will be around. We will be around to keep. You know what you could do? Sign up for Buckeye Huddle. We'll talk to you on the Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse Columbus. Oh boy, I start to go off on a little sales pitch and another spammer comes in. Sons of guns. Geiger Lee wants me to check Tom's browsing history. I'm sure it's about youth hockey and figure skating and things like that. Tom is a pretty straight shooter.
How to berate bad hockey kids.
Oh, wow. Market X, UGA fans couldn't unload a $5,000 ticket. Try harder, dogs. No, I don't know for a fact that people weren't able to unload them or whatever, but I know if given the opportunity, if I could get national championship tickets at face value every year and money were no object and travel were no object, I would do it. I love football that much, so I don't know. The beard makes me look slightly younger, so I look like I'm 52, not 53.
I don't know if the $12,000 tickets have sold, but they are down to 8,500 towards the 50, and you can get in. You can hit the 50 for about $5,000 now as well, but it's 4,200 to hit the end zone. So,
I'm trying to get an update here on there. The lowest ticket, that's best deal. Never mind. The lowest ticket on TickPick is 5,046, section 341, row 28. So that's all in. So that's something. Mika Hanna, our friend, our recruiting guru, we got this. Go Buckeyes. I remember when college tickets were free with some Diet Coke. What was that, like 2 liters?
Yeah, Michigan gave some tickets away for
Michigan, Minnesota.
224 ounces. My Ohio State season tickets as a freshman, which was 5 games, was $55 total. It wasn't that long ago.
My tuition at Ohio State my freshman year was like $700 a quarter. When Jesse Owens and I were both students at Ohio State.
Both track stars.
Something like that. Suzabo, Doug, I already spent all day watching OSU podcasts. My husband is already close to divorcing me.
That's a fair point. I mean, I understand. Sue supports a lot of people, but we also happy home.
Ours is the best, though. I mean, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. I mean, I heard a song like that, back when country music was worth a damn. Doug Shepard, the closer to kickoff, the more anxiety starts creeping in. I suggest drinking heavily.
but not too heavily.
You better listen to this guy. He's pre-law. I thought he was pre-med. Same difference. No, I didn't know Chick Harley, but I know Rob Harley, the new defensive coordinator at Northern Illinois. So,
is that right?
Yes. Clay Hall tweeted something out a couple of days ago about it, so it's got to be true. It's got to be true. El Suzabo, if I join a group, it would only be Buckeye Huddle. We appreciate it. We love you there. We love you for that. We're here in the furious last 5 minutes of the show. Robert Howard doesn't think that country music was ever really worth a damn. No, well, when I was a kid and my mom was listening to it on 8-track in her 1978 Lincoln Continental Mark V, I was a captive audience. I had nowhere to go.
I remember listening to Corner on my aunt's 8-track.
My brother, who is 7 years younger than me, desperately wanted my parents' 8-track alarm clock. I have no idea why. I think my parents had like 6 8-track tapes. That was like it, or cassettes, or whatever the hell they call it. I'll tell you what they weren't worth, discs or MP3s. And he wanted that clock something fierce. It's probably, what's old is new now. It's probably worth like 20 grand or something. I don't know. Will Tom be attacking any players with the camera during warmups?
There's always a chance. I mean, we do remember he hurt JT Barrett prior to the Michigan game in 2017.
I told Urban. I told him. He did a study and, he never did anything with it.
I don't know. He will not be attacking anybody. He will only attack the situation.
The only people getting attacked by a camera from Tom Moore are Tony Gerdeman and Kevin Mill. He's very mean. He's very, very mean. Well, we're in our last 5 minutes. Any final thoughts as we get closer to the game? I guess this is a good way to round out this 2-hour-plus pregame show in advance of Ohio State Notre Dame for the national championship.
I know as you get closer to the game, you start to your score prediction goes from 38-7 to like 24-23 type of thing. But really, I feel good about 31-17. I think that's a pretty good sweet spot. It has been a common score prediction we found out over the media party and talking to other media folks. 31-17 has been pretty popular. I think Notre Dame's going to struggle running, but I think they're going to be okay doing that. They don't mind getting 3 yards to carry because Riley Leonard is there to pick up the first down at the end. Stop them on first down. Make second down a passing down. Third down will be a passing down. Third and long is where Notre Dame goes to die offensively. So I think Ohio State's offensive line will hold up. I think Notre Dame's tackles are going to have a very, very rough night.
What did you think about the one pick we heard last night, 8-6? I asked him about it again today. He's like, I'm all in on it. This guy is also extremely sarcastic and way too young to be that sarcastic. He also claims to be Jimmy Kimmel's nephew.
That's true.
More likely Ron Howard's nephew.
So who is your pick to click then? There's an offensive MVP and a defensive MVP. So go ahead. Who you got?
My offensive MVP is going to be Trevion Henderson, more in the catching game than the running game. I think he's going to be able to run some, but I think that him coming out on the wheel and some options like that I think that's going to be an X factor. I think my defensive MVP is going to be Sonny Styles. I think we're going to see Sonny Styles. Don't necessarily think of it as a spy, but I think we're going to see him tasked with a lot of Riley Leonard containment, and I think he's going to have a big game. I think he's going to put up a lot of numbers. And dare I say, I think he may even force a turnover.
They're definitely going to have to spy the other team's side as well. I will take Will Howard. That's easy. Not a guarantee, but taking the quarterback as the offensive MVP. And how about JT Tweedle getting some action against Charles Jackson on the left tackle? They've had different MVPs defensively each game, so you see what he's going to do. I'm going to go with JT Tweedle on this one. I'm not going to be like Ransom. I think those are two good ones. They've got two good dudes on this team.
I don't really think there are a lot of bad answers out there. I mean, obviously you can't pick an offensive lineman. That's just not how it works. But there's I can't really think of anybody. I mean, I could sit there and go way off the board and say like Ty Hamilton, but generally your D tackles are not necessarily going to be the guys that are going to get it done. But would you be surprised if any of the 5 defensive backs ended up being the guy getting the MVP hardware? I mean, I don't. I mean, I think it's more likely safeties than corners, just based on the way that Notre Dame is constructed and runs its offense. But I don't think that there is a case of, it being like, oh my God, I did not see that happening. Doug Shepard saying that the YouTube commercials are seriously lame and annoying. We will look into that. As you know, and I know you know, we do have to run a little bit of advertising on there, but it coming in the middle of a live show, that's a bummer. We will check our settings.
Other than that, I think we've made it.
I think we've made it, and I think we're undefeated still.
So we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all for tuning in. Hit the thumbs up if you've not yet done so. We do appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully you guys can find something to do for the next 30 to 45 minutes. Maybe go watch all of the other stuff that Thomas puts together on youtube.com/Buckeye. Behind the scenes stuff, some stuff leading into this game. All the stuff there, so go check that out. Of course, continue to come to Buckeye.com. We'd love to see you there. Just $4.99 in person. Thank you all for tuning in. We will talk to you guys later.